And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore podcast, where we never sit out. We're your hosts, Matthew and Chris Dawson. CDD, what's going on? I mean, week 8, a lot of there were some dare I say crazy games this week. There were some crazy games that we saw this week.
A lot of very, very lucky week for a lot of us that watched these games. It was incredible. A bunch of top 10 teams struggling at home. Like, that's weird, right? I mean, it's college football in October. You shouldn't expect the unexpected, but that was not expected. You looked at, right, Oregon, um, Oklahoma, Washington, even Florida State at times, right, didn't play their best football at all. And while all of them went unscathed, unlike UNC, right, who
Oh my
lost to Virginia and
goodness.
Tony Elliott. How about Tony Elliott? How about Tony Elliott?
I know you texted me, you said, oh, Tony Elliott just saved his job. Did he? This is
I
his
mean,
first like Division 1 football win of the season. Granted, it's a big one, but like, do you see his Virginia team like winning more games, like a lot more games? I don't know.
well, they were close with North Carolina State, right? They were close with Boston College, but they got a couple more games on their schedule that they can maybe win, right? But I mean, the expectations were low coming into the year, right? And it's been a rough couple of years for them there. So we'll see what happens though. But obviously, huge win for them. And the more big story here is what brutal for Drake May and North Carolina. Right, this was a team that a lot of people were looking at like, hey, like if the dominoes fall right for them, they're going to be undefeated going into playing FSU in the conference championship game. And now, right, not only is it a conference loss, but also like it's going to be hard to overcome in the playoff committee's eyes, like losing at home to a bad football team, a really bad football team in a year where you have a ton of competitive, you know, ton of competitive, teams that are vying for that playoff spot. Like that's tough. That is really unacceptable.
This is what happened last year, though. I mean, North Carolina gets off to a hot start,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of teetered away. And again, I don't know what that's a tribute to. I mean, but yeah. Anyways, I mean, Baylor Cincinnati was a good game. Emory Jones stinks. Sorry, Cincinnati fans. I mean, Scott Satterfield's doing what he can. Honestly, I think he's honestly doing what he can.
Yeah, we talked about the beginning of the year. It's a rough roster right now. Rough transition year when Luke Fickle hangs him out to dry and leaves for Wisconsin. Now they got to go play the Big 12 schedule. Tough for them. But speaking of the newcomers in the Big 12, right? Houston, how about them scaring Texas? Right, that was pretty darn close. That fourth down or the 3rd and 1
I,
play was. I mean, I still
which,
don't
by the
know
way, how
what
did he
that
not?
was.
He got it. Like he got it right. I mean, I don't know why. What kind of review they're doing? They didn't review it. Like what? I don't even know. Well, they did review it, but I don't know what. Well, one, first of all, Donovan Smith, a gigantic human being. How do you not just quarterback sneak it? Right. That's what I have questions
Yeah,
about.
it's
But
the D line of Texas that you're scared about. Which credit to them, for having a really, really good interior, run defense. But in a day where you had arguably one of the like very controversial official call, right? In the Minnesota Iowa game, that would have taken this Houston call would have obviously taken, national media headlines. And instead, 10 minutes before, it was suppressed by what happened in the Floyd Rosedale game, which we'll
what
obviously talk about. Got my
Boston?
Minnesota hat on for
How about
that.
Boston College? 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. To like,
Rest
yeah. I mean, geez, Georgia Tech. Well, this is it's up and down for them. It is
oh,
completely up and down for them. This is a roller coaster of a season for Yellow Jacket fans.
dude, they came out in the third quarter and I thought they played great football. After, that interception in the pick six in the first half, that was really like weird. And then you come out and you're up six, and then you missed the PAT. And then from that kick, everything was downhill. Tommy Castellanos on 3rd down was incredible. And 4th down too, and 4th and 1. He's a really fun player, really, really fun player back there for him. In the ACC, we were higher on. I was higher on I'm sorry, on Georgia Tech than a lot of people, and Tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, and if you thought the Minnesota Iowa game was a stinker in terms of offensive play, tune into the SEC. Look no further than Mississippi State, Arkansas.
Oh my
Max
goodness,
Wright,
Fayetteville, man. Ugh.
Max Wright getting time at quarterback there for Mississippi State, former Vanderbilt quarterback. AJ Jefferson, what? Like, just I didn't even get to watch like hardly any of this game, and I looked at the score and I'm like, what? Box score sniped it. Said what? I don't know how much eyes you got on this game, but I can't imagine the fans out there watching this game being particularly pleased. There were people that paid to watch that game.
Hey, and being a Big Ten West fan myself, I'm all for a nice, defensive showdown. But it was just ugly football. Came away really unimpressed with both these teams. Arkansas is obviously 0-5 in the SEC, tough for them. Mississippi State gets their first win. They're above 500 on the year, which is crazy. They do have a tough rest of the schedule, but they can do it. I guess make some things happen, upset some people. But yeah, that was tough. I kind of switched over to a different game because it was competitive, but I was like, there's some other stuff happening in that noon window. I was speaking of a great game, great finish. Pittsburgh Wake Forest, right? That was awesome. The ending to that game,
Yeah.
somehow Wake Forest gets the ball back and like scores last second. It looks like they're about to kick a field goal, and then they run one last play and they get a touchdown there, which was really awesome for Dave Clawson and Wake Forest there.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, below might be a better answer at Pitt than Djokovic, but how about Marucci
Mm-hmm.
slinging the pill a little bit for Wake Forest when it mattered? When it mattered. Now, obviously, he did not have a particularly amazing game. Not here to hype him up or anything like that, but when it mattered, man, he made the plays. He made the plays. And that's a devastating loss for Pitt fans. I mean, they needed this one really bad for how the season has been going. It's going to continue to spiral. And I think people are going to start pointing fingers at Pat Narduzzi, which I don't think that they necessarily should be. Like he has done a fantastic job with that program. Granted, he
Yes.
chased what's his name out of there. Uh, what Mickey Joseph was he there? No, who am I thinking of? No, the offensive coordinator who was with Kenny Pickett and went to Nebraska because he kicked him out of there because they weren't running the ball well enough with an NFL level quarterback and a Blitnikoff winning Heisman Trophy or Blitnikoff winning wide receiver. They weren't running the ball enough. So yeah,
What you get.
I'm sure there's Pitt fans there that are not very happy. Mizzou continues to roll. They rolled South Carolina. Cody Schrader, dog. Brady Cook, dog. Luther Burden, dog. Oregon State or Oregon Washington State. That game was close in the first half, but the reality was Oregon was a good football team. They found a way to do it at home, right? They pulled away because last year Washington State made this a good ball game. Washington State should have won this game last year, in Pullman, but credit Oregon for coming out with that. Illinois blew it. Illinois blew it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
credit Braden Locke, I guess. I seriously don't think the outcome of this game changes whether or not you have Tanner Mordecai playing quarterback.
No, no. I mean,
Is that crazy to say? Like, I don't think Wisconsin, like, if they lost this game, I don't think they could point to, oh, we didn't have our quarterback. I think that this exact outcome, like, the way that this game played out, the way their offense looked, I think it looks the same way with or without Tanner Mordecai. Is that crazy?
yeah, it was pretty bad for 3 quarters of the game. And then they got hot in the fourth quarter, which, credit to Braden Locke and all that.
Yeah.
But
Dude, how good is Johnny Newton?
yeah,
He's
wait,
so
that
good.
that that last play where they had targeting or whatever they call it on, where the game should have been over, and I mean, obviously brutal for them. I believe he's like going to be out next week too, right? Or the next game, which I believe is Minnesota, right?
Uh,
Dare I say Big Ten West favorites, Minnesota? God,
Gosh, they
we'll get into
control their
that
own
game.
destiny right now.
They do, but they also have Ohio State. But we'll talk about the
Oh,
path to
that's true. That's
and
true.
West when we do cover that Floyd game.
Oh gosh, oh, gosh.
One game I do want to highlight here is, Kansas State and their kind of 2 quarterback
No,
system there.
actually, Minnesota definitely we'll talk about it, but they definitely control their own destiny. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, they do. They actually do. But TCU and Kansas State, Will Howard and Avery Johnson both played well. TCU did not, and Kansas State's looking like a wagon once again. After a rough start to the year.
Uh,
Nevada wins 6-0 at San
they
Diego State.
stink. San Diego State stinks. They actually stink. I saw someone.
Brady Hoke.
They were like,
And
I saw someone on Twitter or whatever was like sneaky play, like Nevada plus 475, and I was like, actually, that is a pretty sneaky play because San Diego State just stinks.
yeah,
Nevada just stinks. That was an absolute smelly game. I didn't watch a second of it. I didn't watch a second of it. 6-0 final score in Nevada. Yikes. What kind of game was being played there? UNLV continues to impress. They won, pulled it out against Colorado State. They're 6-1 right now, undefeated in the Mountain West, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Because their only loss is right now to Michigan. So
yeah. I mean, they continue to pull out wins there. I guess.
awesome.
I want to talk about the UCF Oklahoma game real quick, even though we mentioned it briefly earlier. Javon Baker, man, he is awesome. That guy showed out who we thought he was going to be at Bama after the spring game, during his true freshman year, and we were like, why isn't he getting snaps? Turns out he maybe needed to mature just a little bit, and he was fantastic. He was awesome against a really good Oklahoma secondary. Obviously John Rice Plumlee, all that. Gus Malzahn, you know how he always gives people credit. I mean, that he's a very creative play caller, right? I'm not going to question his offensive scheme, but that 2-point conversion at the end, a little bit too cute for my opinion.
That's who he is, though. That
But
is who
you
Gus
live and die
Malzahn
with
is.
it.
You live and die with it. And the reason why they're in that game, right, is because of Gus Malzahn, right? Like, that's the reason why he was in those games against Bama, right? It's like you get cute, and sometimes we always get cute, stay cute, right?
Get cute.
If you're gonna be cute, let it be your identity, and that's exactly who Gus Malzahn is.
Real quick, we do have to give a shout out to Rutgers, right? I believe they are 8-0 against the spread. And I believe I'm not quite.
I believe like if you got the closing line of the Michigan Rutgers game, you pushed. But depending on what you got it at, you won, right? It was never a loss though.
Yes. So I mean, that's awesome.
Depending where you, gosh, they're so awesome, dude.
We love our wagons. They're 6-2. They're going bowling. They're going bowling this year.
Yeah. Hey, you were on their over. You were on their over, dude. And I was not, and I was not touching that, dude. After watching that spring game, I know the weather was bad. Gavin Winstead is still not a great quarterback. I'm willing to still say that.
He's awful, but again.
But Aaron Lewis on defense, dude, they have some boys on defense, dude. They have some boys. And on top of that, a great run game with an absolutely fantastic running back. Dare I say, the best in the Big Ten this year so far?
I mean,
he's up there. That's pretty a stretch, but he's up there. Like he's been one of the best running backs in the entire country.
For sure. And like we thought situationally, like if he doesn't eat, like they have no chance to win, right? With the way their quarterback and their offense is set up.
Yeah. But he wasn't even the leading rusher in this game. It was Winstead. I think he had 143.
A lot of that came on one big run.
Yeah. Which is an electric run, which is what Gavin Winstead gives you, right? That's why he's in that game. But
yeah,
non-guy, dude, another 100-yard game, stud, absolute stud. Texas Tech continues to, gosh, Joey McGuire, come on, man, it's upsetting. That's all.
Real quick, I do want to give just shout outs to teams that are like doing well in conference that this team has a chance to make it to the Big Ten champion or their conference championship, right? In the athletic conference, how poorly UTSA started, right? They're 3-0 in conference, right? I'm super impressed with them. They got Frank Harris back. Like we talked about, Louisville is 3-1. Virginia Tech, by the way, is 2-1. No, obviously I don't expect it to stay that well, but that's good for them, obviously, compared to what it could be at. Iowa State and Oklahoma State are 3-1. Boom. That is impressive. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think is it Oklahoma State's only losses to
Iowa State.
Iowa State, and then Iowa State lost to Oklahoma. So like,
Iowa State controls their own destiny.
yeah,
It
which
is it is October 22nd. And Iowa State controls their own destiny in the Big 12.
is awesome. Matt Campbell, awesome, awesome, awesome. And to be honest, they play Baylor, right? So like we're gonna be sitting in November, and cross your fingers, knock on wood, whatever. If you're Iowa State, you have a really good chance to be like looking at like November. I know November's brutal, and obviously take one game at a time, but really, really exciting for them. I'm not even going to talk about the Big Ten West because that's just stupid. None of those teams deserve to be talked about in terms of like controlling their own destiny.
Except Nebraska. They're low key winning games. They're above 500 right now. In the Matt Rule era, they're 4-3. In October, they have an above 500 record.
Yeah,
It didn't look.
I guess it's progress for them. They have a chance to make a bowl game, like
That's
a
insane.
real
We
chance
talked about
to make
it.
a bowl game.
Their over under win total was 6.5, but we both said like if they win 6 games, that is an accomplishment. That is a huge turnaround in 1 year, in 1 season.
And I'll tell you this: they should have beaten Minnesota, like absolutely should have beaten them week 1. And
absolutely,
they got
Daniel
Colorado.
Jackson.
I know. They got Colorado at a really tough time where Colorado played their best game of the year and they were actually healthy in that game. I guess. Yeah, I guess I'll give credit to Nebraska for sure. In the Pac-12, Utah, man. Utah.
We'll talk about that.
That's incredible. In the SEC.
Georgia State. How about Georgia State improving to 6-1, 3-1 in the Sun Belt?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they play JMU next week. Could be a preview game for us.
Yeah. Missouri and Florida control their destiny. I mean, obviously, they got to go through Georgia, right? Which is not going to be an easy task. But Florida, neutral site game. Georgia is the week after, or Missouri's week after for that one. A lot of interesting conference races. We'll get into it once we get into November, obviously. But wanted to put that on the horizon to shout out some teams that deserved some love,
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Should we get recapping?
Let's get into it.
All right, games that we recapped. Penn State and Ohio State. CD and I, we went head to head. CD won that one. Took Ohio State. But in general, CD did not do particularly well against the spread.
Look at all that red. That's too much red. Too much red.
For me, I didn't do a whole lot better. I went above 500 in the winners, but in the spread department only went 500. We both, I mean, Iowa. We'll talk about it, but should we have won that?
Did we? Well, we'll get into it.
But are there any bets that you would, or not? We didn't bet any of these, but are there any picks that you regret, like really, really regret?
Doubting Mike Gundy, but also I do think Garrett Green. I still stand with Garrett Green. I'm starting to stand with Garrett Green even more. Like incredible.
Week by week, it's incremental, but he's slowly growing on me.
USC was tough. I don't think
that's the one I regret.
I think like this USC team, like we talked about it. We hated the pick. We just couldn't pick Utah to go on the road and put up the points, and they did that.
Back-to-back weeks, by the way. Back-to-back weeks to put up 30 points.
Yep. Should have realized that Kyle Whittingham after the bye week is just a wagon, and we'll cover a bunch of their games down the stretch as well, and it's gonna be hard to fade them. It's gonna be hard not to fade them, but we'll see. I do feel good about the Duke thing. I was surprised. I'll pick Duke without Riley Leonard, and obviously we'll talk about that. They were going fourth quarter with a lead, and they didn't cover 3-score spread. Tough. Yeah. Clemson, what the heck was that game? That game was unwatchable. I'll be honest. It was a very for
no Tyler Van Dyke.
Oh yeah, Clemson had a game in which their quarterback threw for twice as many yards as the opposing team, and they still lost. Golly,
They
tough.
they had like they had like less than 40 yards rushing on the game.
Yeah, and
Clemson
the
did.
key of the game was Will Shipley get him going, and they did not. They didn't. The
Miami's
tight end,
defensive line. Miami's defensive line's good.
sure, yeah, but I still think, whatever.
Yeah,
How
the
was
the one
Dawson's
that
Diner today? Nice to get you back, though.
finally back in the green, dude. Finally, it's been 5 weeks. And finally, and guess what? It took taking 4 unders to do it. And the Alabama Tennessee one, the fumble recovery touchdown, right? That one could have gone under. It probably shouldn't. It probably should have gone over. Right? The end of missed field goal. Uh, Tennessee just scoring 0 points in the second half. It probably should have gone over, but fortunately, strip sack, fumble recovery for a touchdown, sent it over. The other three were absolute locks, and they absolutely were not even sweats. So I felt great about it. So
No,
would not. I would
credit to
bet
you.
these. I would bet at these exact four again. In terms of like the actual games that I picked, I wouldn't take any of them back.
Even Penn State, you watched that offense go against. You
I
watched that
watched a
offense.
I watched a strip sack touchdown get called back for Penn State.
Yeah, but they had chances to win that game, and they just their offense had no chance to move the ball.
I agree, but I'm just saying, like, if that penalty doesn't happen, right? I mean, Penn State likely wins that game.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that for sure. But
Now,
also, like,
granted, if they were to play again, can't necessarily rely on that happening. But I think Drew Aller knows, like that was his first like real test, and it was on the road. Like that was my mistake, right? If they were to play again, right, I think Drew Aller would be a little bit more settled in. But that was his like first like, not like he's been on the road before, obviously in the Big Ten, but like that was his first like test, like a
that was different.
real good defense on the road in a hostile environment. And Ohio State's defense is elite. It is. So, but it's weird because Penn State was running the ball well in the first half, like in the first quarter, and I don't know what happened there. So,
Credit to us though, Toledo, Haggins, Dorian Finn. You know, they haven't been great cover machines, but they got it done today or on Saturday, and they're looking real good in the MAC there.
yeah. So I felt good about all those picks, and I would do it again. I'd pick all of them again. I mean, well, except USC, obviously, hindsight, obviously. But like in the
Yeah.
moment, it was like, well, this could go either way. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's get into these games. How about it? Penn State at Ohio State. Ohio State was favored by 4.5. They won by 8. This was a really good game. Neither team could run the ball. But what did it come down to? Uh, it kind of came down to Drew Alar's thinking. And
I'll say
both the
this. I'll say this. I think these teams were evenly matched. They said on the broadcast that James Franklin felt that the talent he had on his team matched up against Ohio State, and for there's what 90 players on a college roster. For 88 of them, yes, that was exactly it. The problem was on defense. Ohio State had JTT, and on offense they had Marvin Harrison Jr. And Penn State, right, with minus Chop Robinson when he got hurt, they do not have a player like that. And Marvin Harrison is obviously Marvin Harrison. He's 101. And so that to me, that was the difference in the game, right? When you needed a play to happen on third down, on 1st and 10, whatever it was, Marvin Harrison made it. He was a bailout for Kyle McCord. If he's on Penn State, Drew Alar's team, Drew Alar looks much better that day, right? You probably flip the stat lines with him and McCord. And obviously JTT affected Drew Alar in a way that, he always seems to do against Penn State.
Yeah, and that fumble recovery, this return for touchdown that got called back was brutal. It was a holding, right? So Penn State fans, I'm sorry. Like it was a penalty. There's nothing you can do about it. That just blows, man, though. Because like that is an entirely different game. Entirely different game. Like Penn State has a legit chance. I mean, they could have won, I think. So because then Ohio State, that possession ended up scoring a touchdown, I believe. I could be wrong about that. I thought they did. But that would have been a huge swing. So
Yeah, no, that would have been they did not having a touchdown.
So yeah, so that would have been a gigantic swing. So I picked Penn State, you picked Ohio State. I would pick Penn State again because if you're gonna give me points against two teams that are pretty evenly matched, I'll take the points. So Great game for both defenses. I'm really excited to see where the rest of this goes. I'm excited to see both of these teams play Michigan because I think Michigan actually has an offense that's good. Like it'd be really like I think Michigan. There's a chance Michigan runs away with this, but it'll just be
Yeah,
interesting because they Michigan's got to bring it twice. They got to bring the game twice.
that's just
This is
it.
not
And
this,
also,
this is not the Penn State team that they were able to run for like 400 yards against last year.
nope. And also, I think Michigan, in terms of everybody in college football, has obviously looked the best and looked like to be in a tier of their own if you're just watching the eye test and what they've done against inferior opponents. The problem is they've not have been tested at all. Penn State and Ohio State both got a test under their belt this past weekend. Ohio State probably had one, when they played at Notre Dame, which is good for them. Now, does it put it on film for Michigan to see? Absolutely. But also like Michigan has to go to Penn State, and then Iowa or Ohio State, has big game experience already under their belt on the road. So yeah, it is awesome. I mean, we were super excited to watch this game, and it lived up to the hype, I think.
Yeah, this game. I mean, I took the under Dawson's Diner. Oh yeah, was not even close. And he kind of knew like at halftime, you were like, all right, because there's always a chance, right? If you have there's the caliber of athlete on this field, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
always a chance for an explosive play, right? There's always a chance for an explosive play. But in my head, it was just never a doubt. I mean, like the way I saw these quarterbacks playing, the way that they were just absolutely under pressure the whole time. Common Core getting bailed out by Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, granted, Common Core made it happen. He made it happen. Made those where he
He
needed
missed
to.
some throws. I thought he went stretches in this game where he missed throws, and you cannot do that if you want to go on the road and beat Michigan. I don't think personally. I think both these teams have to play much better than much better than what was shown on the field today or this week. But to be honest, I was thinking about this game and I was like, what really happened? Like, what does this remind me of? Like, what does this mean for Penn State in the future of that program? Because against the rest of the Big Ten, against the rest of the country, right? Outside of Michigan and Ohio State, they're really, really good. And they're kind of in a tier of their own. It's like they're not quite in tier one, but they're the top of tier two. I don't know. It reminded me a lot of the year where Michigan, I believe they were playing Dwayne Haskins in Ohio State. It was like a couple years ago, pre-COVID, and they got cooked. Now, obviously, Penn State was a much closer game than Ohio State was, or than that game was against Michigan. But it was just like they just couldn't cover Marvin Harrison when they needed to. They just couldn't do it, and Ohio State and Ryan Day just found holes in the offense. And I think Penn State, in my opinion, I think they're starting to recruit better now than they have the past 3 years. And so they'll continue to stack classes and be at a spot where Michigan is now, where they're on the same field, same level, same playing field as Ohio State. Where I think give it a couple more years of James Franklin at Penn State. I know it's frustrating if you're a Penn State fan. You're like, we have the quarterback, the 5-star quarterback. We have freaky talent. Why can't it be this year? Just give it a couple more years. Eventually, it'll get there. I think the resources at that program, the coaching staff there. I'm not too worried. And Drew Allar will be better. His best days of football are ahead of him. I think we all understand that. But right now, that was tough. That was. I give him a lot of credit though because he stood in there, he had happy feet. At the beginning of the game. I'm not
He
a
took
mechanic guy for
he
quarterback.
took he took responsibility though. After the game, he took responsibility. He knew that he sucked. He said it. He's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
suck.
yeah. And obviously he could have pointed the finger at his O line, and his receivers were not getting separation. Goes back to the point where Ohio State has JTT, right? Gets pressure on Drew Allar, and then also Penn State doesn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. to bail him out, right? Or even Cade Stover, man. Cade Stover's awesome. That was a heck of a catch he had down the seam there. Good ball by McCord for sure, but Stover made some plays after getting a little banged up during that game. He's a baller.
Oh, for
Slowly
sure.
becoming one of my favorite players in college football. I think for a lot of people too.
Absolutely. Duke at Florida State. Man, dude, did they play their butts off, dude? Duke played their butts off, man. Especially in that first half. Offensively, they somehow made it happen, scoring points. Defensively, though, they made it happen. Gosh, I'm Florida State finding a way to move the ball. Jordan Travis, credit them, credit their run game, getting it done down the stretch against a Duke defense that was pretty tired by the end.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do think I just hats off to Duke, man. They should have covered. They should have covered. They had a chance to win the game. I mean, in the end, Florida State's talent offensively was just a little bit too much. But this Mike Elko team, you heard the announcers. They did a great job of talking about it. I think Kirk Herbstreit, Fowler had the call. They were just like, this Mike Elko team, this Duke team is different than years past. They're well coached. They fly around, right? I think he's got them homing in the right direction. That, for anybody, they're going to be a really, really tough out in the ACC. To be honest, I didn't love the decision to play Riley Leonard. I understand I'm not in the room. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't understand. Obviously their expert professional opinion is worth a lot more than mine. But I saw him out there and I just felt bad for the kid. I'm like, he's a sitting duck kind of back there, and his best weapon is his legs. And while it did matter in the beginning, I thought that Florida State was really respecting him. But you saw in that second half, like it caught up to them. And when you can't push the ball down the field without having the ability to create time, buy space for his receivers to get open, like it's hard. It's hard to ask a Duke offense to move the ball against, what is a talented Florida State roster on the road, right?
yeah. Did you know who didn't dominate this game that I thought was going to? Keon Coleman did not dominate this game.
But like looking back though, like yes, that is surprising. Yes, I think Keon Coleman is maybe what wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in college football right now. But like it's Mike Elko, man. Like yes, the receiver, the cornerbacks are small, but like looking back, it's like, were we really that surprised that like he had a fantastic game plan against this Florida State offense, specifically taking away their star players?
Yeah, I was still impressed with Duke after this game. I mean, I don't think of them any differently, right? I mean, of course, getting a touchdown late. We both picked Duke plus 14. So giving up that late touchdown was pretty brutal in terms of our picks, but didn't lose any money, didn't lose any sleep over it, right? So, uh, but yeah, I mean, once again, credit Florida State as well, putting up another 38 burger, getting it done. They continue to find ways to win games. They're 7-0. Still some slate left in the ACC, but it's looking more and more like they could do it.
Yeah, I think as for Duke, you got a couple of games down the stretch. I mean, Riley Leonard kind of exited the game right in that late fourth quarter. Don't know exactly what happened to him. Hoping he's gonna be all right the rest of the way. But man, I don't know. Duke ran the ball well, right? Like Chuck was Moore had the long run. Jordan Waters didn't quite get going, but in the first half he had some tough running. Um, Jordan Moore is a really good player, by the way. I'm so sorry. I mean Jalen Calhoun. Um, for Duke, he didn't do much, but it just some of the routes and the movement on his running is really impressive, right? The way he
Yeah,
changes directions, gets in and out of breaks for Duke there, and then obviously no Riley Leonard legs definitely I think impacted him. Even be able to like to finish on throws, like it's hard. It's really hard to play quarterback when you're not, I don't know, 80% or 85% what he was last night.
yeah.
We're,
I'll
we're,
second what you. Sorry. What'd you say?
are you read now? Obviously, like the score you look at, it's like 18 points. Yeah, Florida State covered and they won at home. Like, what more else can you ask for? But like the reality of that game was like they had a special teams touchdown in the first half where they could have been down 10 points, and
Yep.
then they were down in the fourth quarter, right at home to Duke with a banged up quarterback that had 69 yards passing in the whole game. Does this make you worried about Florida State?
They're they might be a playoff team, but this is not a national championship team. It's not. Uh, and look, they can accomplish their goals of winning the ACC totally and making the playoffs. I just think looking at Georgia and looking at Michigan right now, I know Michigan hasn't played anyone except UNLV, but I maybe there's just no elite teams in college football either. Maybe that's the case as well.
I was about to say that. I'm like, yes, I guess like in terms of generally, like this is not a national championship caliber team, but like the reality of this year is there's a ton of really good football teams, but do we really believe anyone's like elite or flawless?
I
Right?
haven't. Yeah, I mean, the most confident I feel is Michigan. I was one of my
But you have no idea. You
preseason. I was one of my preseason
have no
national
idea.
championship picks, plus 900. But yeah, you still don't really know. They haven't gotten into the nitty gritty, right? So even though
Yep.
they just pounded Michigan State, we'll talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit later. But yeah, but yeah,
And
you might be right about that. That they still might have a shot at the national championship just because of we don't know what the rest of the field looks like. To be honest,
well, and you have Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, like your Jordan Travis is healthy. You're gonna have a chance to win every football game.
Shaheem Bell had a good game.
Yeah, he's continuing to get more and more involved in the offense, which is nice to see. The also thing is like we talked about it in our preview of this game, or at least what I was talking about. I'm like, regardless of how this game works and how poor Florida State plays offensively, defensively, whatever it is, like in my opinion, I was just gonna chalk it up to like Mike Elko is a really good coach. Like Mike Elko is gonna make you win with your changeup,
Yeah,
and like the reality is like it's almost more impressive that Florida State was able to do that and still win by team pull away at the end. Like Mike Norvell continues to talk about like grit, grit, grit from this team. And like, wow, it's crazy to say like you're 14-point favorites at home and you won by 18, but you showed a lot of grit. Like I thought they did in that second half, specifically in the fourth quarter, responding to that pick six that Duke had with the kickoff return for a touchdown. Now, talent wise, top to bottom of this roster in terms of depth, is a national championship contender there? I don't know, but if they're healthy, if they're playing well, who knows what can happen in 60 minutes of a football game. I do trust this team, and with the Clemson looking like they are in Miami, still not being super impressive, and North Carolina lost. Like nobody
I
else in the
think I
ACC.
think I still think for some reason I have this weird feeling that Miami is the second best team in the ACC. I don't know why. I can't get it out of my head. They haven't.
I
I don't
I
know.
think in my opinion, I thought this was Duke's. I'm so sorry, Florida State's toughest conference game, right? Left or even maybe even all year. If you maybe going at Clemson was tough too, but right, I looking at Florida at the end of the year, you can lose that game and still go to the national championship, but like to me, that's like sure Miami, whatever. Like Tyler Van Dyke, can upset you for sure, but for Florida State, you gotta be feeling pretty good. Mike Norvell.
I agree. Speaking of ACC, Miami versus Clemson at home. Miami, their first ACC win under Mario Cristobal. Snaps,
At home.
snaps, snaps,
At
snaps.
home.
At home, snaps, snaps. I have Tyler Van Dyke in this picture. I didn't know that he wasn't going to play. Was that like common knowledge? I don't know. Or did I just completely whiff?
But by the time we talked about it on, I believe it was Wednesday afternoon, it wasn't really circling around. And obviously it's Wednesday before Saturday game. A lot can happen in practice, setbacks, injuries, whatever. I do think as it got closer to Saturday, there were more and more worries about Emory Williams going to have to start for Miami there. And to be honest, it didn't really matter who they threw out there. I wasn't super impressed with him. He made a couple of fine throws. He had the interception. They didn't
He was
ask
not
him to
great.
do too much.
He was not great. He was not great. But it didn't matter because Clemson, 31 yards rushing. Wow. Yikes. Yeah, Clemson losing this game. They dropped to 4-3. And those three losses are all ACC losses. So
Yeah.
any hopes that they had of going to the ACC championship, they were already very, very dim. It's not happening this year. So Clemson's going to be fighting to get to, I don't know, the GoDaddy Bowl this year. Is that what? Maybe they
And
get lucky.
listen this year. Well, like you have at North Carolina State, right, on the road. And to be honest, Clemson has not played great on the road this year. Notre Dame, right? Georgia Tech deserves to be in there. Like they just beat Miami. Obviously, you can't use a transfer to property in college football.
They
But
lost to Boston College, though, yesterday.
well, Tommy Castellanos is a wagon. I think we both know that. And obviously, and then you end up with the Carolina schools. Like this is not. This was going to be a hard schedule all along for Clemson, but like, yikes, 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 yikes. And this was it was obviously was a winnable game for them for sure. I mean, you get outscored 10-0 in the fourth quarter, and that's what happens. You're going to lose a football game, giving Miami a chance to win in overtime, and that happens. Like turnovers again, bit, Clemson in the butt, 2 fumbles, one on the goal line that led to a next play touchdown by Redshirt Smith. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. In a game where Miami, right, other than that AJ run, like their longest run was 13 yards with a backup quarterback. If you're Clemson and Dabo's winning, you got to be frustrated that you didn't win that football game. You got great production from your tight end, right? In the passing game, 314 yards from Klubnik. Now, people like to talk about, especially early in the year, about Bama's quarterbacks, right? Having zero pocket awareness. Cade Klubnik has zero pocket awareness, and he does not have the mobility or it's more agility, I think, in the pocket. Like you can be quick in the pocket and not be a great athlete. Cade Klubnik has some straight line speed, does not have agility in the pocket or pocket presence, in my opinion. And it showed. He had negative 27 rushing yards, and that's sack yards factored into that. So I don't know. It's tough for Clemson to throw away at what I think is a really good defense, especially front seven. You got your stud cornerback, Nate Wiggins, and you lost to a backup quarterback in Mara Cristobal. Like, yikes. Yikes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so you picked Clemson in this game. I picked Miami in this game. Obviously, I won there. I think if Miami has Tyler Van Dyke, I think I pick them again, right? But if I know that they have Emory Williams, I don't think that they win this game again. I think Clemson has a better chance to win this game if they were to play again. If Emory Williams is playing quarterback, is that how you feel as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way this game broke down, like everything points to Clemson winning the football game except turnovers, right? That was a big deal. And like, because without that turnover, like the 80-yard run from Miami probably doesn't happen. And you're probably looking at a 14-0 lead into halftime. And then you tack on 10 more in the third quarter and you're up 24-10. I'm sorry, 24-0. And then the game's over. But, you fumble again in the red zone. Red zone issues have been an issue for them all year, especially in their losses. Can't happen. Will Shipley is better than that, right? Obviously, he didn't have his best game. Tough to happen. And I'm not going to blame it all on one player, but Dabo Sweeney, his critics are loud right now, very, very loud. And I
Yeah,
wouldn't say I'm one of them, but I am frustrated and disappointed with this Clemson football team right now because I think they're much better than 2-3 in the ACC, and what could be maybe a 7-5 finish. Dare I say 6-6, and then it's like, wow, if you're upset about Jimbo Fisher in Texas A&M, like how are you not upset about Dabo Sweeney? Which I know everybody will be if they are, 7-5, 6-6.
agree. Yeah, so Mario Cristobal, good for him riding the ship. Uh, it would have been really easy for a lot of teams, just especially a team like Miami that's prone to collapse after the Georgia Tech game, just kind of spiraling. Right, just credit them, man. Backup quarterback. The whole stigma about not winning at home in the ACC, they get it done against. Clemson's still a good team, right? I know we're talking a lot of mess about them, but they're still a good team, right? That was
Well,
a
yeah,
really, really, really good win.
yes. I'll show. Yeah, I should have given more credit to Miami during this breakdown. I do think they got a tough schedule ahead of them for sure with at NC State, at Florida State, Louisville, and dare I throw at Boston College in there at the end of the year. But like that, they got a chance.
Frisky. That's a frisky team.
Exactly, but it's also like a schedule that gives you a lot of opportunities to make up ground in the ACC and to win big football games. Like, so while you have chances to lose, but you also have chances to feel really, really good about this team. Where you finish 9-3 in a year where maybe you had some injuries and whatever else. Like this, it's pretty awesome. And the fluke Georgia Tech game, I feel like you got to be feeling pretty good if you're Miami right now, Mara Cristobal.
Right. Let's talk Alabama versus Tennessee. Alabama at home in the first half. Wow, did Tennessee just dominate? Defensively, Joe Milton moved the ball. They even ran the ball pretty effectively. Whatever happened in that locker room when those two teams came out, Alabama quick touchdown, and then it was just absolutely nightmarish for Tennessee the rest of the time. Domination, Bama's defense destroying Joe Milton, and any chance that he thought he had of winning this football game. I was on Alabama. I had them minus 8.5. Oh, in our picks, you had Tennessee plus 8.5. I kind of get bailed
Yes.
out there by a fumble recovery touchdown in the fourth quarter. Uh, I mean, I don't know which Alabama team, which Alabama or Tennessee, like who are these teams, right? Is Tennessee really that first half team, right? And they just played a bad second half, or is Alabama really that second half team and they just played a bad first half, right? Like I don't know. Like I like to think that like what I saw in the second half from Alabama, like that is a playoff caliber football team. I know offensively they didn't like dominate offensively in the second half, but they moved the ball well and their defense just was lights out.
Yeah, to be honest, I really don't know. I just don't know. I was really impressed with Tennessee and Joe Milton. Like everything was clicking, especially that first quarter. Obviously, Milroe had the red zone interception again. Bama fumbled as well. So 2 turnovers obviously helped you if you're Tennessee. But yeah, I just don't know. This Bama team's really streaky. As almost conservative a style of ball they play, they're very streaky in terms of like they're really good defensively, right? But what that leads to is, in college football, you're going to give up points, you're going to give up yards. That's the reality of the situation, especially against a team with the talent that Tennessee has. Even though their offense hasn't been high flying this year, still a lot of talent on there. Good play caller there, and Josh Heupel. But you're going to give up points, but you also like takeaways, turnovers, like 3-and-outs, like those things like add up really quickly in a college football game, especially a rivalry game. And then also the big play arm of Jalen Milroe. One thing I really did like about Bama, especially in that second half, I thought I saw a lot more was the McClellan, man. He was the hot hand, and they rode him 27 carries. He had the next leading rush. I mean, Roy Del Williams had 6. So it was nice to see. I think to me, when Bama teams are at their best is when they have one alpha dog in the backfield. Is McClellan, the type of Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, even Josh Jacobs for that one year? Like, no, but can he be a really serviceable running back for them? Yes, absolutely. Burton had a nice game. Bond's awesome. I think, in the deep game for sure. He's always open at least once a
Dude,
game. And Moreau
Law,
obviously finds him.
I'll say this about Law, dude. He moves differently. Like he looks like he moves. I'm not saying he's Jalen Waddle because that's like Zach Branch moves like Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle moves like Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill moves like Tyreek Hill. Law moves like Law. Like he moves, man.
He
He
got the
skates.
they have a relatively, I would say, like unknown to nationally and maybe like statistically award winner type wide receiver room. There's some really good bodies in that room in terms of just like physical specimens, matchup nightmares. Malik Benson had a nice catch too. Dupree, nice catch. Amari Niblack, they tried to get him more involved, but he didn't really have the connection there this time. But they're pretty dangerous offensively. And like we continue to say, like if you give Bama a chance, you keep letting him win football games. And the later in the year they are, especially with this team, it feels like they're getting better and better. Be careful. They're 5-0 in conference right now. Like you get a bye week and then you get LSU. Like that's pretty. I mean, obviously, all eyes will be on that game, for all the SEC West implications that it has on there. But I, I don't know. They already beat Ole Miss. They have that tiebreaker, right? They beat A&M on the road there, and obviously Tennessee was a big time win. It's a really dangerous football team right now. They're gonna stick. They're gonna lurk around that top 8, top 9, top 10 area, but they'll be in it if they want to be in it by the end of the year, and then they'll get one game to play Georgia, and who knows there. As for Tennessee, what's your outlook on Tennessee for the rest of the year?
See, Tennessee fans not going to hear this, but I am of the belief that the defense is very good, but I think the offense, like Joe Milton, is going to Joe Milton. Like I think the Joe Milton you're going to get for the majority of the time is going to be the one that you saw in the second half. That is my belief. You can prove me wrong, totally, because we've seen flashes of it, right? The first half, South Carolina game, like he's looked good at times, but I tend to believe like Georgia. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against Georgia. You know how he plays against Florida. Well, actually, no, he lost to Florida. He stunk. So what am I even saying? I don't know. I don't know, man. I the run game is still pretty solid. Now it's stalled in the second half, but I still like Wright and Small. Their offensive line has been pretty good, especially since when they got those injuries back. I still have so many question marks, dude. I thought those questions were going to be answered in the A&M game, and I thought they're going to be answered in this game. And I still have so many questions about this Tennessee team because I just don't know what I'm getting.
I think almost what it is like, yeah, like yes, there are questions, but at the same time, like in my opinion, I feel like we keep getting the same result for them. Right now, yes, the running game wasn't all there. I love the way they used Milton in the run game, by the way. I thought they moved the ball well in the first half. He was able to use his legs to make some plays. He ran over Malachi more than that one time in the first quarter, and that was good to see. But I just think, like, I feel like we're all kind of waiting for Tennessee to just jump offensively and explode. And that's why we have questions about the offense, but I just don't see it happening the rest of the year, especially with some of the teams and the places you have to go the rest of the year. Right? You got at Kentucky right next week, and then you got Connecticut, whatever, but at Missouri and then Georgia. Like, I don't know. I was the guy that took the under on the 9.5 wins, and I feel really good about it right now. And obviously, Tennessee fans don't want to hear about it, but I think they understand that too. Like, last year was a really good football team. They lost a lot of talent to the NFL, and they're finding out that it's hard to replace that and hard to have really good football teams back to back years in the SEC. Like, it was still win 8 games and nine games, even that'd be really, really impressive. But in terms of competing in the SEC East, like maybe they hoped they were going to be with Joe Milton here. I think this is not the year for that.
I agree. But if they had this defense last year, wow, that would have been a team to watch.
It would have been a much better Georgia game, I think.
Yeah, they wouldn't have lost to South Carolina. And I don't know. It would have been really cool to see. But this is I don't know. It was a weird game. It was one sided the whole time. It was one sided in the first half, it was one sided in the second half. So it was
We also have to
very
understand, like, it was a rivalry game. Like Tennessee, Alabama is a big time rivalry game. These teams hate each other. And so you're gonna get weird outcomes or weird results that maybe you can't, buy this, the outcome of the game or take the results that you saw on the field and be like, oh, this is what these teams are gonna be the rest of the year. Like, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. When we talk about 12 weeks a year, you're gonna get a different football team with it for these college kids. And on this particular Saturday, like, Alabama was a better football team in the second half, the much better football team in the second half, and that ended up showing on the scoreboard.
Utah traveling to Los Angeles to play USC and Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. We said it. If they win this game, Kyle Whittingham should be everyone's first name on the ballot for Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Especially what we saw with Washington last night as well. Gosh, dude, how does he do it? They're decimated. They're decimated, man. And Bryson Barnes, they find a way to get that offense buzzing, which, by the way, the last 2 weeks, it's looked good. That's scary. That's very scary. Granted, it's against Cal and USC, not good defenses at all. But goodness gracious. And I saw a stat. It's Caleb Williams against top 25 defenses. It's not great. And yet again, he played another top 25 defense and was limited. Didn't look like Caleb Williams.
Yeah, but also, like, he put him in position to win that football game. At
Correct.
the end of the day, I just think Utah, man, grit. They're so hard to count. You give them a chance to win the football game. Ask Baylor. You give Utah a chance, any sliver of hope to win a football game, and you're gonna find out, like, 9 times out of 10, they're just gonna be really well coached and execute down the stretch, no matter who is in there, no matter what the injuries are. Like, it's just plug and replace. I mean, Zion Vaki, right? Like, incredible, right? Over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? I believe you said he was a safety, a converted safety, and into playing on offense now. Like it, Jaquin Jackson had a nice game. I thought Bryson Barnes did his thing. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 14 for 23. Cole Bishop continues to be a baller, man. He had the games the touchdown saving tackle on the Zachariah Branch punt return. And
Is
then
he?
they scored
Is he? Is it him or Latu that's your Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year this year? Or is it
as of right now.
Or is it Oh, their linebacker who I'm blanking on his name. Utah's linebacker had the pick six against UCLA. Dante Moore first play.
Yeah,
Whatever. I forget. I'll remember it at some point. But
I
dude,
Bishop deserves. It's got maybe Bishop. I think what he's done with less. No, obviously that defense is incredible, but like they're just willing their team to football games. They put up 483 yards of offense like that.
balanced,
Yeah. Now they had big
balanced.
plays, whatever. But like,
So, do you believe me now when I said USC should not be ranked?
yes. No, I think so. Losing now, but also like you lost in a very close game on a walk-off field goal. In terms of like ranking, yes, but do I like in terms of like pop like doesn't really
But are
change who
they?
they are. Like if the
I
guys if the guys
there,
shank the field goal, like they don't deserve to be ranked either. But
there
like,
might be 25 teams that would be favored over them on a neutral field after this game.
yeah, and it could get ugly for them down the stretch here. You got
I
at
think
Cal.
Oregon State is favored on neutral field over them.
Yeah.
Utah, I think, they probably still wouldn't be favored on neutral field. But I don't think Vegas is caught up to Utah's offense. If this is what their offense might look like down the stretch, I don't know
We get
that they've
sprinkled
caught up.
here.
But
USC finishes with Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. And I think we were all kind of selfishly hoping that those games would have playoff implication for both teams in it. And it just doesn't. And
does not.
USC could mess around and get rolled, especially against a team like going to Oregon, who I believe's got a defense that can and Washington and UCLA in their own right. Like all those teams can match up well against USC. I do want to give it it sucks though. I'm still a believer in Caleb Williams. I don't think that's that about 25 top 25 teams, whatever. Like you you feel like you know a good quarterback when you see a good quarterback. Like he is incredible. And it's USC, not that they're wasting him, like they're still figuring out their program. They got to learn their culture and their defense and whatever else. But it's a shame for college football. He's not going to be, playing meaningful football games for their team in November. But Zachariah Branch is incredible. I think they need to get him a little bit more involved in the offense.
He's
I mean, he had
so
one
good,
catch.
dude.
Anytime he touched the ball, he just
He's a top 10 pick in 2 years. You can't convince me otherwise.
he should be. And the problem is, I know it's hard to take the ball out of Washington's hands, who I like, and Caleb Williams loves Taj Washington. Brendan Rice is a stud. Mario Williams, Dorian Singer, all great players in their own right. But like Marshawn Lloyd, who also should get more touches in this offense. But like Branch is different, man. As a freshman, you know that he really is. Even though he might be, wide receiver 5 on the depth chart, he's a difference maker. And I think in a game like this, when your offense went stale for second and third quarter, like he could be a guy where you give a screen pass or a slant to, and he takes it 75 yards and changes the outcome of a game.
Yeah. So Utah's remaining schedule: Oregon next week at home. At home, dude. At Rice Eccles. Oh,
It's
goodness.
gonna be so hard. It's gonna be so hard to fade Utah here, but at the same time, like, and by the way, if you didn't see it, and listening, like Cam Rising was officially declared out for the season by Kyle Whittingham. We've kind of been operating under that assumption, not because we knew insider information, just because we've taken clues. We've watched him in warm-ups, like it's been tough for Cam Rising there. And obviously a shame. Hopefully he comes back next year. I think would be a difference maker. And not that I don't give him a chance down the stretch in the Pac-12, but at the same time, like I would really, really, it would be really interesting to watch. with um I'm
Healthy
sorry, I'm
Utah
blanking.
team.
Yeah,
Cam
with a
Rising.
healthy Cam
Like in
Rising, yeah.
general, just like a healthy team, dude. A healthy team. Kyle Whittingham is unbelievable. He is unbelievable. And then so they play Arizona State as well, Arizona, Colorado. I mean, at Washington, of course, in between there. Like this is a team that could win 10 games.
He's coach of the year, coach of the year, coach of the year. You have to. You
That would
have
be
to.
absolutely absurd.
What's interesting here, real quick to finish it off, like everyone's talking about playoff expansions or I'm sorry, conference expansion and teams changing conferences. And everyone's talking about USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA going to Big Ten, and then you got Colorado and Arizona schools, going to the Big 12 and all these other shakeups. Does Utah enter the Big 12 as like the auto day one favorite to win that conference? Right?
Sorry, yeah. Wait, say that again.
Does Utah enter the Big 12 next year as the auto day one conference champion favorites?
I'd have to evaluate. They got a lot of seniors on the squad, so
But like every year they do, like every
well,
year,
yeah, that's the thing, and that's
like
why I'm
you
like,
doubt Cowboys.
I saw that line at 8,
That's
and I'm like, are we gonna do this again? Are we gonna do this dance again? Are we gonna just believe that Utah's not that team, that they don't have that talent? Good God, they're so well coached. They're so well coached.
that's my point. That's why I'm like the national media, no one's talking about it, but it's also like at this point in Kyle Whittingham's tenure there, it is plug and play, rinse and repeat for Utah there. And in a year where the Pac-12 is the best conference in college football, right? They are playing fantastic football in the Pac-12.
Yeah,
3-1 in conference.
we'll see how it translates to the Big 12.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 is going to learn real quick that like Utah is a tough out,
It's a tough
especially
barn.
in Utah, in Salt Lake there. But yeah, I do think, man, it was awesome. This is a really good game. This is a really good game.
For the Floyd.
We did it, man. We did it.
Iowa versus Minnesota. Minnesota 3.5 point dogs. Uh gosh. I'll let you explain. But I'll let you give your opinion. Should
Yeah,
Minnesota
real
have
quick,
won
if
this
you're an Iowa
football game?
fan, yeah, if you're an Iowa fan, don't turn it off real quick just because you heard me say we did it. Yes, I am a big Minnesota fan, but I'm gonna try to be unbiased here, right? And you might not like what I have to say, but like for 3 years now, probably like Minnesota has outplayed you, right? For 3 years now, and you won two of those games. And yesterday, Saturday, right? You probably should have won in terms of like that fair catch, whatever else. Like it was a weird call. The rule book, in my opinion, and what I've seen on Twitter and like have refs explained it to me, like it is very, very cut and dry. That was the right call that they made. Is it very unfortunate? Is it tough to see a game pretty much decided on a referee's call? Yes. But at the same time, like as a punt returner, you should know the rules. And like that's been called a lot of times in college football.
It's
Not
called
every
a
year.
Javier Arenas in 2010, I
Yeah.
believe. Javier Arenas had a punt return touchdown in a big game. Got waved off.
Yeah. Exactly. And so like Cooper DeJean obviously is incredible. He's so awesome. First of all, my first takeaway is get him on offense. Like he should be playing offense. The wide receivers are terrible, right? That one good catch, right? That was a really, really good catch on that first drive, right? Where, you know, Cooper or Deacon Hill extended the play and actually made a really good big time throw. And the guy made a very good contested catch.
His only big time throw of the game.
Yeah, he missed a lot. And now he had one dropped on third down that was really tough. It looked like the sun interfered with it, but like at the same
I,
time, if you have like negative yards on the second half, you do not deserve to win a football game. Like, don't be complaining to me or Minnesota fans on Twitter that like you lost the refs screwed you. You had a chance to win that game. You had the ball. You needed to move the ball 20 yards with the wind at your back to win the football game. And you went backwards and then threw a pick. Like, come on now. In terms of
yeah.
like,
Also, their one touchdown drive, 5 penalties on Minnesota.
oh, that was incredibly frustrating because like it just should not come down to that. And that was at the end of the half. And like Minnesota needed to keep that, in touchdowns in this game, obviously are at a premier, like it's Minnesota, Iowa. We pounded the under for a reason because like this is exactly about as we planned it would be. Now, obviously the win played a factor in, some of the game plan and whatever else. How about PJ Fleck burning 2 first half timeouts at the end of the first quarter to make sure that they kicked a field goal, and in the right direction. And it paid off for them. They made the field goal. And that was the difference in the game was 2 points. But one thing I did love about that game was, and they did a good job on the broadcast of it, like Minnesota was on the opposite side of where the broadcast camera was coming from. So you saw their, you could see their sideline a lot of times, especially when the play went over to the sideline there. And PJ Fleck wanted to win that game so bad. You could see it every time. Like any guy would come close and he was just yelling at it, pointing to the first down line because he knew how important getting just one first down was to them. And to be honest, the credit Minnesota and credit Ethan Kaliakmanis, they moved the ball really well
Whoa.
in the second half.
Whoa.
He was awful. He was awful.
Ethan was terrible. He was arguably worse than Deacon Hill at times in this game.
Yes,
Dude,
but also like they moved the ball
easy. Like Daniel Jackson gets open. That's what I think. Daniel Jackson is a top 30 wide receiver in college football. I really, really believe that. And that it's crazy. People are probably going to come at me and be like, what are you talking about? Like, if you watch this guy play, he's unbelievable. The way he runs routes, the way he makes spectacular catches, the way he separates, he is spectacular. His body control, his awareness, he's ridiculous. Easy pitches and catches. Ethan could not get him the football.
No, and that was incredibly frustrating on 3rd and 4. And he would routinely beat. There were 3 to 4 times in the game where he would win a rep against Cooper DeJean, flat out win it, and you just miss him. And like,
yeah,
if you understand the way that this rivalry game has gone by, like that comes back to bite you. And for Minnesota, it didn't. The problem is like Iowa.
it almost did.
Yeah. Oh my God. That punt return, man. Like, how do you have 6 guys to the left of the sideline? Like, someone missed to contain, I believe. I won't mention who it is, but
Cooper DeJean had 6 inches of space. Slipped through. That was insane.
Let me tell you. Well, to be honest, when I saw it happen, I was like, "What up?" Like it looked like he did a fair catch. It looked like he waved it off. Like I was like, "It's not going to come back." Like isn't it the penalty to move the ball after a fair catch, whatever. Like it turned out not a penalty. It's actually it's just going to be a dead ball. But like, and then they reviewed it, and then I was like, "Why is it taking so long?" Because it's obviously it wasn't out of bounds. And then like they cut to Cooper DeJean, and he was like, "What? What happened?" And then you saw PJ Fleck get animated, like, let's go. And at that point, Iowa, and to be honest, like, I'll say, like, I tripled down on Iowa live betting. I did. Like, when Minnesota went up 12 to 10 in the fourth quarter, I pounded Iowa money line. And then the next time Minnesota got the ball back, I pounded money line. And then they got the ball back again inside their own 5 or 10 yard line. And I pounded Iowa money line again. And wow, because games like that, like Iowa just wins and Minnesota just loses in this rivalry. Like that's just what happens. And it was really nice to see Minnesota. Like you saw how much it meant to those guys. You saw kids crying, PJ Fleck getting emotional. Like there was a whole like pep rally at the indoor football stadium at 12:30 at night because they won the Floyd, and then the Floyd's coming home. And how great is it for Minnesota? Like you have the Axe and Floyd of Rosedale, like currently in Minneapolis right now.
In Minneapolis, which is wild.
Both of those games were won on the road. The last time that happened was the last quarterback to do that was 1988. No, I'm sorry, 1989 and 1990 for Minnesota. And now, granted, Ethan played much better in that Wisconsin game last year than he did in this game. But like for everything you say about him, like he won the football game. Minnesota's 4-3, and they control their destiny in the Big Ten West. Now, yes, you're looking at their schedule, which I pulled up here. Like Iowa State or Ohio State, it's a loss. Like there is 0 chance we're going to Columbus and getting a football win there. 0 chance. Everything else is just super winnable, just so winnable. And the beauty of that is like,
so what are they? What are those games? What are those games?
So you have Michigan State at home here, right? The problem is Minnesota. If you want to talk about like being in a letdown spot, Minnesota is the prime example of that. Anytime they get any kind of momentum, they get ranked, they have a big time win, they lose or they come out flat the next week. That just happens. The problem, the good part is like Michigan State is awful. They are awful, right? Offensively, they might be worse than Iowa.
No,
Maybe a little bit better. But you
they're
get
better
that home,
than they're better than Indiana. They're better than Iowa. I think they're offensively. I think they're
better than
better than
Rutgers.
Northwestern. I think they're better than Nebraska offensively.
Maybe Rutgers too. Geez, the Big Ten sucked offensively this year at the bottom half of it.
Oh, did you just slander Rutgers? Did you just say Michigan State is a better offense than Rutgers?
Michigan
Blasphemy.
State should have won that football game, by the way. Anyways, Michigan
Yeah, no
State,
one cares.
Illinois at home, at Purdue, at Ohio State, and then at home versus Wisconsin. And we all saw Wisconsin play with their backup quarterback this weekend, and that's a very winnable game. And so, like, everything is there for Minnesota. You do need Iowa to lose one more football game. As for Iowa, you technically don't control your own destiny, but you will come November once Minnesota loses to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Again, this Northwestern loss is coming back to bite Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Like
Just like
that.
the Purdue loss did last year, just like the Illinois lost 2 years ago.
Yeah. So like you could in a scenario where the Big Ten West is awful, where Illinois and Purdue are terrible.
In the last year, the
Nebraska,
Big Ten West.
the last year's Big Ten West, you could theoretically beat Minnesota, and you could have beaten Iowa and Wisconsin and Nebraska and Illinois and Purdue and not win the Big Ten West. That is because
Yeah.
you lost to Northwestern. You blew a 21-point lead in Northwestern. But to be honest, this is Minnesota. We celebrate our wins. It's the 24-hour rule. We still have about one more hour left of the 24-hour rule to enjoy having the Floyd come home. It's really great. Like the atmosphere last night on campus was awesome. Obviously for Iowa, I guess we've talked a lot about Minnesota in this segment.
Iowa has a winnable. Iowa should go 10-2, I think.
But also like the way that they play football and with that quarterback right now, like they have a bye week, much needed bye week. This team is beaten up. Now, while they won't get Cade McNamara back, they won't get Luke Lackley, they won't get Eric All, right? But they're gonna get some guys back healthy. Maybe guys that are banged up playing at 80%. They'll get them back to full strength come November. They get 3 home games and then at Nebraska, right? Like this, they like you said, they should win all those games, but also like Iowa is, I mean, just with the way that quarterback plays, like their offense is like they could lose any football game. They could lose all of those games. Now are they gonna? Probably not. But yeah, I do think Minnesota, they do have to play much better offensively. Now, I think Iowa's defense is just really good. And those windy
Oh yeah,
conditions tough going to
it
Kenny
was.
State.
Yeah, absolutely very windy. I mean, I was ripping on Ethan. Like that was a tough barn, tough wind, right? Like it was a really really tough game to be a quarterback.
I'll
I
say
mean,
he threw a couple of actually really good passes. 2 of them were actually completed. Corey Crooms had a tough day, very tough day. 4 drops, not good. But
Brevin
anyways,
Spanford.
oh my goodness, he has been the
We're
biggest
we're
disappointment this year.
we were so high on him. We were so everyone was. Oh,
He could have worked his way into a top 45 pick this year, and he does not look draftable right now offensively. Now blocking, he's really really good still, but he's not even trying. It's really weird to see a 6-year senior come back and to give the effort he's given. Could be injuries, could be a lot of other things. Who knows? But Daniel Jackson, the floater ball he threw on the deep over route or the deep crosser route was really really impressive. And then on 3rd and 15, 3rd and 14, whatever, they come back around to Daniel Jackson. He threw a laser, an absolute rope right at the sticks. Jackson made a heck of a catch, and that kept the drive alive. And yeah, I thought Joe Rossi, we had to cherish him, right? But it was so frustrating. On 3rd down, if you want to keep to beat Iowa, just blitz on 3rd down. He uh, they can't block it, and he cannot move around it. So like, and to be honest, they don't have the receivers to separate right away at the beginning of routes. So like, part of me thinks that Iowa, might go 2-2 the rest of the year, but also another part of me is like, let's be real about this. Like Iowa's gonna go bye week and they're gonna go 4-0 and probably be in Indianapolis and get blown out by whoever they play. But also like Minnesota at the same time would also get blown out by anybody in the Big Ten East. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, regardless, though, it was a great football game. Rivalry game. It comes a lot of drama, a lot of stress. That's why we love college football. With all the drama that comes with it.
Let's talk about one of my favorite games to watch on Saturday, by the way. Oklahoma State at West Virginia. Alan Bowman and Garrett Green both played really good games. I know the stats don't look like they dominated. Both of them made big time throws.
Mm-hmm.
And receivers made big time plays, and both teams ran the ball effectively. This was Oklahoma State that fourth quarter. You know that 28 points is Ollie Gordon just gashing West Virginia. Ollie
Oh my
Gordon is,
goodness.
dude, like, if you watch highlights of him, I tweeted this out. You can follow us at the Redshirt Soft. Anyways, when he is handed the football, he explodes through the hole. You have no chance of reacting and move. Like, he's already at the hole. You better know where he's already going before he hits there because he's there, right? That's what makes him so effective too. This offensive line isn't incredible, right? But he's through the offensive line before the defense even has time to get in their gaps. He's unbelievable, man. He is unbelievable. He's a hard runner. He's explosive. He's fast. He's large. Dude, he is awesome, awesome, awesome. He continues to dominate. Alan Bowman, he's been good. It is 3 straight wins for Oklahoma State. Not just 3 straight wins as dogs. As dogs in 3 straight games. And this was the first one on the road. Gets it done. Oklahoma State's 5-2. Now they still don't control their own destiny in the Big 12 because Iowa State is also only has 1 loss, and they lost to Iowa State, which is wild to say that Oklahoma State only doesn't control their own destiny because of Iowa State. But this is a great win for Mike Gundy, I think. This is a great win.
Actually, technically they do control their destiny because they had the tiebreaker against Kansas State, and then they also can play Oklahoma and beat Oklahoma and have the tiebreaker against them.
That's true, but they wouldn't have the tiebreaker over Texas, right?
I guess you're right. That's a good point.
If
But
Texas
yeah,
wins out.
but in that case, like if Texas wins out, then Iowa State loses a game, and then like Oklahoma gets ahead.
You're right about that. Sorry. So I
So
guess,
like
yeah, they do control their
sure.
destiny. Yeah, they actually do control their destiny. What am I saying? Mike Gundy controls his own destiny in the Big 12. Wild.
Shocker. Let me tell you, like 3 weeks ago, we would have been shocked. But 2 months ago, I believe you picked them as your dark horse to win the Big 12. Or
Plus
you picked them in the
4,000.
championship, right?
Yeah. Well, I had him as a dark horse, but it was a very sharp hint to take the plus 4,000 while it was there.
Yeah.
Now, granted, do I think this team's making the Big 12 championship? No. Although they get Oklahoma at Stillwater.
Anything can happen there.
That's all I'm going to say. So that would be an absolute turnaround of a season. Give Mike Gundy the award for greatest actor, having us in the first half there. I mean, losing. You get shut out 29-0 by South Alabama, and you're telling me now they control their own destiny in the Big 12. Unbelievable. So, but enough about Oklahoma State. Garrett Green, dude, every time I watch him, I'm a little bit more impressed. He's got wheels.
Thank you.
He can move in the pocket. He can get outside the pocket, and he can make the big time throws. Like now, granted, sometimes he struggles in the pocket making that strong throw and staying in there. But when he gets outside of the pocket, it is dangerous. It is dangerous. And CJ Donaldson, of course, is really good. West Virginia continues to impress me. I'm not less impressed with them after this game. They continue to impress me a little bit. And
no, it got away with them there in the fourth quarter there. But like you said, Garrett Green, well, both these quarterbacks played fantastic. Garrett Green on the legs, another 100 more yards on top of his 250 through the air. I did not think he had it in him. I do think he has a benefit. His O-line is awesome. Like I do, like they're really, really good. The scheme is fantastic for him to find lanes that get him involved in the running game. Obviously, him making plays through the air. Got some receivers coming on strong. Other than 2 throws, right? One by each quarterback, the interceptions were bad interceptions, but like these are They're playing great. I'm sorry. They're playing good. These quarterbacks are playing really, really good. Enough for these teams to win a lot of games in the Big 12, respectively. So like, it's tough.
Again,
West
these are
Virginia,
two top half teams in the Big 12. Sorry.
which
Sorry, not sorry.
yeah, and there's a reason why we covered this game because we thought it was going to be a really good game, which it was, and we thought these two teams can make some noise in the Big 12, regardless of the outcome. For both these teams, and Oklahoma State obviously got the better of West Virginia today, but they play next week or in a month or two, like it could be a totally different outcome in the game. Yeah,
Now, granted, so you took West Virginia, I took Oklahoma State. Would you really take West Virginia again in this game? Or would you ride with Mike Gundy?
well, it would be very, very tempting to ride with Mike Gundy. I would say that, but also like West Virginia has been my boys all year. Well, since maybe since maybe like week 3.
since yeah.
But regardless, though, it's really awesome to see it. It's good to see these two teams playing good football. And you mentioned the schedule, man. The outlook of the Big 12, it's a really wide open conference. Everyone's talking about Texas, Oklahoma. Yes, they're head and shoulders above everybody talent wise, but like
All it
one of
takes is
those
a
teams is gonna
sneaky win. All it takes
one of
is
those teams is gonna slip up.
All it takes is one sneaky win.
Yeah. What do you do with Texas?
Remember Iowa State, by the way, had a chance to beat Texas last year. They should have, right? And Oklahoma State gets Oklahoma at Stillwater this year. So it's like the Big 12, we thought it was a closed door, but the door is not entirely closed yet.
Here's this. Mike Gundy has a chance to lock Texas out of the playoffs and out of the Big 12 championship because they were on the table, right? They make it. Right. We talked about that earlier. And then Oklahoma has the tiebreaker against Texas. Even if Texas runs the table, Oklahoma gets in and Texas gets the door shut out on them. And Texas might be a top 4 team in the country, and they won't even be playing for a conference championship because of Mike freaking Gundy and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. It's awesome. The Big 12 is wide open right now. I think at the top half, it Kansas State's playing good football. Texas, yes, they struggled with Houston, but they got up early and like it was a weird game, whatever. Oklahoma State, obviously, West Virginia too. Oklahoma, obviously, and then
Baylor. I'm just kidding.
Come on, don't tease me like that. Don't tease me like that.
BYU's underratedly what 6-2, 5-2.
They're 5-2, 2-2 in conference. Yeah, I mean it's really interesting. The last year of the Big 12,
TCU stakes.
Big 12.
TCU stakes.
Yeah,
TCU stakes.
Yeah, we whiffed on them, but we kind of saw a regression coming there. Chandler Morris didn't turn out who we quite wanted him to be, and
Josh Hoover's better. Josh Hoover's better. So look, the future's bright for TCU.
That's true. And Sonny Dykes.
The MAC game of the year. Toledo at Miami of Ohio. Toledo's favored by 2 points. We both took them to win this game and cover because this offense was incredibly effective. I don't know that they dominated on the ground like we thought they were going to. 158 yards is pretty good. Finn had an all right day at quarterback, but I think it came down to just execution down the stretch. Well, it really came down to that first half where Miami of Ohio just kind of pooped. And look, Toledo just hung on to that lead, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't have anything like significant to say. Like, I wish I had better game analysis, like to break this down for you guys. But it kind of just came down to Toledo won the game, I guess. Also, the fumble at the end, right? Miami's backup quarterback in there. Fumble at the end of the game, trying to go drive down and score, getting sacked like that. Tough. You hate to see that. You hate to see a game end like that, right? When they had a chance to go actually win the game. But Toledo holds on. They're 7-1, undefeated in the MAC. Miami 6-2, only one loss in the MAC. Still a very good football team. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was impressed. That first half of Toledo and Finn and the boys there in Toledo was really impressive. Was really, really impressive. Obviously, Miami Ohio still can make some noise in the MAC there with the standings there, and they obviously lead their division, right? The East Division there. Toledo leads the West. So we can see a rematch of this, in Detroit there at the end of the year, come early December with both these teams. But to be honest, like Miami, Ohio at home, that was your best chance to beat them. And you kind of shut them out. You did shut them out in the second half where you thought you'd come back. Obviously, it didn't work out the way you wanted to. You had a chance to win there. But yeah, I took away from this is Toledo's a good football team. They know how to win football games, and they're gonna be fun. Whoever they play, obviously, nationally, people won't pay attention to them until December and then into bowl season. But the MAC is always fun to watch. Always fun to watch.
Yeah, it was unfortunate Brett Gabbert went down in the fourth quarter there. Just they're making a chance at coming back. If he's not playing for this team down the stretch, I think he was grabbing his leg from what I saw. I don't know what the injury is. I saw he tweeted out, "Hey, everything happens for a reason." So I don't know what that means exactly. I'm sure Miami fans, MAC fans, you guys are already on top of this. You already probably know what's going on. By the time this is posted on Monday, everything will be cleared up. But if they don't have him down the stretch, it might be tough for Miami to win games. Smith did not look fantastic. Now, granted, he was thrown in there against a very good Toledo team. I get it. But Brett Gabbert, we talked about it. Miami has been the fighting Brett Gabberts. He
Yeah.
has been a large reason why they're winning football games this year. And, of course, that changes when he gets hurt, right?
Well, yeah, and they gotta get right for next week. I mean, it doesn't get easy for them. They go to Ohio, right? And the Bobcats there, who've got a really, really good defense, and obviously a dynamic backfield there. So like, it's not gonna be easy than the MAC, and the winner of that game, more or less, probably goes on to the MAC championship. Buffalo's there lurking at 3-1 in conference after going 0-4
Wild. And
out
they,
of conference.
like, an 0-4 where they looked abysmal. They looked, now granted, they played like Akron, Western Michigan, Kent State. So they
Central Michigan.
Central Michigan and Kent State.
Yeah, they have a brutal stretch. They get at Toledo, Miami, or at Toledo, Ohio, and Miami. They got to play. They have a little fun stretch here where they play 4 Ohio teams in a row with Kent State this past week, and then Toledo, Ohio, and Miami, Ohio, which is fun for them. But yeah, well, they're 3-1. We'll give them credit for that, but it could get ugly here in November.
Yeah, this Toledo team is still very good. Probably my favorite still to win the MAC, right? I mean,
You have
who
to be. I
else?
mean,
Yeah,
you went on the road and you got to win. You got a nice win. Like that's really the reality of the
it's a
situation.
good team. I'm reading right now. Looks like coaches were not optimistic about the injury. Sorry, Miami. Fortunately, you are already bowl eligible, which is nice. But also, anything can happen in the MAC, right? Avian Smith, I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll put up wins. This Miami Ohio defense is also good enough to win football games in the MAC. So
Absolutely.
while it's devastating, like the ceiling of this team might not be reached because Brett Gabbert's injury, which is really unfortunate, but still got to be proud of the season that they're having right now. Really fantastic. They were in this ball game. They had a chance to win it.
Oh yeah, and Rashad Amos, just more falls on his shoulder as a running back there for Miami, Ohio. It's a good season in his own right, but obviously no Brett Gabbert, younger quarterback coming in. Like you got to lean on that running back, right? And we'll see if he shows up. I assume he will in that defense, but hopefully they can carry them to a couple more wins in the MAC.
Right. Upset meter. This was not the week of the upset meter. We put these 4 teams in there, right? If you're new to this, right? We pick 4 teams. They got to be 10-point spreads at least. Coastal Carolina, they won by 10, exactly 10 against Arkansas State. And Jalen Raynor played great. I know he had 2 interceptions, but he gives that team a chance to win, right? It never felt like it was really a doubt, though. Like, I felt like Coastal Carolina was in control of that game. Air Force, they won by 11, but they dominated. They completely dominated Navy, right? Obviously, the undercashed, which is giant for Dawson's Diner. But I mean, that was come on. Come on. They dominated. That defense looks so good. Nebraska didn't look pretty, but they won. and then Michigan blew out Michigan State. So, and games we probably could have put on here that we missed, I guess, were obviously North Carolina. Didn't put them on here. I would have put them on the cold. I would have put them in cold.
Oh yeah, and the reason why we didn't talk about them was because we thought that was we thought it was gonna be really. We thought the upset meter was cold. Like we like did not much talk about in that game, and obviously we're wrong. Goes to show you any given Saturday, man, things can happen. You could also throw in Oklahoma, UCF,
Yeah, we could have
right?
put them on there for sure. And honestly, that would have been like at least a mild for me going into that. John
Yeah.
Rice Plumlee coming back. Revenge game though from Dylan Gabriel.
The thing
So
is,
and Jeff
yeah,
Levy. It's
exactly.
a
Yeah,
revenge game for both of those guys.
yeah.
So it's
Now,
like
now, is it revenge game? Like it's more a return because like they didn't really like they left. It was more a revenge game for
yeah, but
UCF.
Jeff
I
Levy
thought,
didn't
in my
get the
opinion.
he didn't get the head coaching job. Gus Malzahn got it over him.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good call. Good call. And
So
obviously like and the surface of it, and part of the reason why we didn't cover it was like Oklahoma had a bye week, and like, okay, they got time to decompress and enjoy the win over Texas, and then they can get into game prep the week after. But to be honest, like UCF needed that bye week more than Oklahoma did. UCF got healthy, and we saw how dangerous they can be. Yes, they're 0-4 in Big 12 right now, but they have not been an easy out for those teams, right? And now they're healthy, and down the stretch, their schedule really lightens up. So they got a chance to
yeah,
make some noise here.
a team that we could have put on upset watch also Washington, Arizona State. Another team we could have put on there, the San Diego State losing to Nevada as 11-point favorites. That was hilarious. We also could have put on here. Let's see. Oh, Texas. That was a
Yeah.
sweaty game. So yeah, so I guess some misses for us. I don't know. I mean, these were still like everything mild and above, like was it within a 2 touchdown game. So it's like they're still good games. You know, none of them just ended up pulling off the upset.
No.
So we'll be back though next week. We'll have more upset meter. We'll have teams. I mean, there's some games next week. I was looking at it, there might be some games next week. So any thoughts on the upset meter?
Yeah, no, I thought, I mean, credit to us for Michigan. Obviously, I don't think that was very big of a surprise. Nebraska continues with football games, even though like wasn't pretty, but they got done. It was still a one possession game, so I guess you could call it upset meter, but like not really. Air Force, like you mentioned, yes, it was low scoring. Yes, it was close, kind of, but they dominated that football game. And then Coastal Carolina, like Jalen Raynor gives Arkansas State a chance to win in every football game. And while Coastal Carolina kind of controlled that game, they were up 2 touchdowns multiple times in the second half. Right. But Arkansas State, with how explosive Raynor is, like has a chance to be in every football game.
I agree. Well, that's it for our week 8 recap. Thank you guys for tuning in. We always appreciate the support. If you guys have questions for us, or you want us to cover other teams and previews next week and weeks after, comment. Just let us know what's your favorite team, right? You can also email us at the Redshirt Sophomore gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at the Redshirt Soft. We love hearing from you guys. We love interacting with you guys. The support has been awesome. We're over 90 subs. We're almost at 100, right? So if you guys are watching the video at this point, right, please give us a subscription. It would mean a lot to us. All it takes is a button click. And if you like the content, like the video. I think that rule is pretty fair. So keep tuning in every Monday, every Thursday. Previews and recaps, baby. And more. Previews, recaps, and more. You know. But thanks again. CD, anything?
Well, thank you guys. Continue to enjoy this college football season. We thank you guys for listening and getting our analysis on some of these football games. Yeah, we'll continue to give you the best effort we can. And we hope you're enjoying your weekend and into next week as well.
Alrighty. And we will see you guys in the next one.